just gonna start off with a few things that I really wanted to talk about with the LG G4. The design is pretty much like the G3. They didn't really change too much. They added a bit of a curve, and that does help with holding it, especially being above a 5-inch phone, because they tend to be much bigger and a little awkward to hold in the hands. So the curve does help. The build materials, people complain whether it's plastic or glass or premium materials. I personally prefer lighter material just because it's a device I'm going to be holding in my hand the entire time I'm using it. So whether it feels premium or whether it feels convenient, that's really your choice. Second, I wanted to talk about the back covers, these things for the G4. I would opt for a leather backing. I know they're like a little pricey. I think they're like 80-90 bucks depending where you are. And I would say to get leather just because on the plastic one, when I was holding it and I was doing the shoot, I was doing photos, it kind of almost slipped out. It's not slippery by any means, but again, being a bigger phone and not perfectly fitting in your hand, it does tend to be awkward to hold. So if you're a person that drops their phone pretty frequently or is a little clumsy, opt for the leather backing. I think here in Canada they give you a leather cover, I think inside the box too, so that's pretty sweet. Moving on, we're gonna go right into the camera and we're gonna talk about the main thing that we want to know. The camera with the F, I believe it's 1.8 aperture and it's a 16 megapixel camera, and they really focused on manual mode, and they have this new sensor with the spectrum that I think gets colors really accurate, especially when shooting. There's going to be a couple pictures now showing up and a couple of videos that I'm going to go through as I talk. I want to talk about its low light performance because a lot of people tend to just kind of skim over that and just talk about its shots in the daytime. Let's be honest, in 2015 and the last 2 or 3 years, any camera phone in daytime can take a pretty decent shot unless there's something wrong with the software that it can't post-process after you take the shot. So daytime for me, it's pretty much any camera. Daytime, I look for 2 things: is noise, and it's not the volume if you're taking a picture. It's the little white spots that you can see in the picture, and I like to see how it takes in light, like especially sunlight, maybe direct light. Not all cameras are really good at that, but you want to see those 2 things because those tell you what's really good in taking pictures, especially. The camera performance in low light, I think it's pretty phenomenal. We tested out 2 or 3 issues. We put it in a dark room, we shut down all the blinds and all the lights were off. It was pretty dim. There's video footage of us shooting with that. In its auto mode, it's pretty phenomenal. There's a little bit of noise, but in comparison to any other phone that we've used in the past, and I've used a lot, it's pretty much the #1 contender right now. I don't really see anybody competing with that right now. When using manual mode, I forgot to mention that you have the opportunity to change the shutter speed, and I think most phones suffer from that, and shutter speed is the key, especially in low light conditions, for you to get a better shot, because boosting up the ISO up to like an exorbitant amount, like for example in the Z1, you have no shutter speed control. Even in the new Z2, Z3, no shutter speed control, but they boosted up the new phones to 1200 ISO or 12,800, sorry. And that doesn't really help because, yeah, sure, you could see what's in the object in the room or whatever you're trying to take a picture of, but it's super noisy. So there's super amount of little white dots all over the screen, and I think shutter speed helps. Now, with shutter speed, you have to keep in mind that your hands have to be more steady because the shutter is taking a longer time to close and to take the picture. So if you move around while you're taking it, it's probably going to come out blurry depending how far down you select your options. So you may or may not want to rest it on a table or use a tripod of some kind if you're going all the way to that point. We used a tripod in ours and it got pretty phenomenal shots. We did 3 shots. Well, that's not 3. We did 3 shots. One was in its automatic mode, which was pretty impressive. Then 2, we did it in a manual mode where we picked the settings to try and mimic what we're actually seeing at that time. and I think 3 we use HDR mode if I'm not mistaken on that. And these are the 3 shots, and as you can see, there's more noise on the automatic one than it is in the manual settings, but the brightness and clarity of the picture is so impressive. Is that you have to zoom in to see the noise, and this is a fairly dark room if you see the actual video of us shooting, not the camera picture. So I was super impressed, and it actually rivals most point and shoots. Conclusion: what is my verdict on the G4? Is it worth upgrading from the G3? Absolutely, if you are a camera enthusiast. If you're not, and you're just Facebooking and you're saying it does the job, you don't care about noise or how clear your pictures are, you can stick with the G3. If you're coming from the G2, obviously it's pretty simple to upgrade. But in conclusion, in comparison to other phones, bang for buck, I think in the contenders of phones, we're not talking about like clones or Chinese phones or things that are coming out from the market that are like $200, $300 phones. I'm talking about in the contenders of flagships, which is Samsung, you know, Sony, iPhone. These phones, which should you get? I can't really tell you that, but if I had to choose bang for buck, I would go for LG. One, it has top specs if that's what you're into, and it has no lag and all that jazz, because you want the highest chipset with the highest price point. Doesn't really work out that way. You want everything to work functionally at the same time, does the job of you getting in, getting out, daily driver. That's what we call it, like you use it every day. And LG G4 does it. Would I choose the iPhone or the Samsung? Well, not really, because the price point is not right, especially if you're not buying it off contract. Off contract, the iPhone and Samsung are 200 to 300, depending on which iPhone. Is like $400 more than the LG G4, and I just don't see its justification for that. So LG G4, should you buy it? Bang for buck? Absolutely. Also, the overall of the phone, I think comfort level of holding it is super easy. Just make sure you have the leather backing if you are a little clumsy and your hands do get a little oily and slippery. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I would definitely buy the G4. I'm thinking of actually upgrading from my Z1 because it's been a while. And the balance of the phone, I think, is important, of how it's weighted. Being a bigger phone, it doesn't topple over, it's not top heavy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So stick around for our next video and check the 4K videos in the description, and I'll probably talk to you guys later. See you!